For those of us who've maybe spent some time with mindfulness or meditation or even CBT techniques, the question often stops being what these things are, right? It becomes more about, well, how do we actually master that inner chatter? How do we get a real handle on that constant flow of thoughts? I mean, many of us have tried, haven't we? And yet the mind can still feel a bit like an untamed river.
That's a really critical point. It moves beyond just knowing about the problem. The real need is for a clear, actionable way to actually do something about it.
Exactly. And today, we're really going deep on precisely that. Our source material for this exploration is, well, it's a powerful book, but it's surprisingly short. It's called The Mind and Its Control. In Hindi, that's Kad Karo Korukana by Swami Buddhananda.
Right. And our aim here, our mission in this deep dive, is really to pull out the essential nuggets from this specific book. We want to help you really grasp Swami Buddhananda's, I think, unique take on what the mind actually is, and maybe more importantly, arm you with some practical, pretty profound ways to exert genuine control over it. So it's not just a summary. Think of it more as a guide to unlocking a deeper mastery of your inner world.
What strikes me about this book is how it just cuts through all the complexity. It offers these deep insights, but the answers it gives to those, advanced mental struggles we mentioned, they feel astonishingly simple. It promises clear, actionable stuff without burying you in jargon.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is Swami Buddhananda's core definition of the mind. It's foundational. He says very clearly, look, the mind isn't some solid, tangible thing you can point to. Instead, he describes it as just a continuous flow, a flow of thoughts and emotions, like a constant stream of consciousness.
That's such a powerful reframe, because the mind is this constantly changing river, not some static object. Then maybe those traditional ideas of just stopping thoughts or suppressing them are, well, maybe missing the point. So if it's a flow, what does that mean for how we actually, interact with it? Instead of just being carried away.
Precisely. And that's where Swami Buddhananda's insight really shines. He shows that if this flow is left uncontrolled, well, sure, it can bear joy and good feelings, but it can also become our biggest enemy, our biggest adversary. So it's not about stopping the flow. It's more about learning to perhaps redirect it or channel it constructively, which leaves the big question, right? How do we go from being tossed around by this current to actually navigating it skillfully? And the book lays out 4 key methods. They're remarkably accessible, and they build directly on this idea of the mind as a flow.
Okay, so let's get into those. The first one he brings up is foundational, meditation, or TEM. And he describes TEM not just as, a way to quiet the noise, but more as a path to observe the very source of all that mental activity, that agitation. It's about setting up a consistent daily practice, sitting quietly, not really to suppress thoughts, but to let that inner turbulence kind of naturally settle down so you can see the stillness that's actually underneath the surface of the flow.
Exactly. And then building on that, we get into self-discipline, or swanushasana. The book really stresses that this isn't about making huge, dramatic changes overnight. It's much more about cultivating these consistent, small, daily efforts, things that build powerful mental habits over time. Swami Buddhananda sees it as consciously choosing not to get tangled up in anger, for instance, or deciding not to entertain those unnecessary, distracting thoughts that just pull you off course. By doing that, you gradually, gently rechannel the mind's usual currents. You guide them towards more constructive places. It's those steady, small pushes that really change the direction of the flow in the long run.
That makes sense. And then the third one is control over the senses, or Indriyan Parkabu. This one feels particularly relevant when you think about the mind as this constant flow. Swami Buddhananda explains that the mind often gets its restlessness and its direction from our senses, doesn't it? What we see, what we hear, even what we say or taste and consume.
Exactly. If your sensory input is just unchecked, it doesn't just distract you. It actively feeds that mental flow. It gives it new desires, new things to react against, creating this constant loop of agitation.
Okay.
So the book points out that mastering the senses really means being mindful, being aware of what you allow to enter, and importantly, exit your mental space. By doing that, you're essentially managing the fuel that keeps the mind's engine running constantly.
Right, managing the input. And the last one.
The fourth key is positive thinking, or sakaratmak soch. And the book makes a really crucial distinction here. It explains that if you're constantly dwelling on negative thoughts, you're literally strengthening those turbulent negative currents within your mental flow. It makes the mind even more restless, more agitated.
So it's like carving deeper grooves for negativity.
Precisely. So Swami Buddhananda argues that consciously cultivating positive thinking isn't just about, trying to feel good. It's an active practice. It's about redirecting the mind's energy. It weakens those negative channels and strengthens the positive ones, which is absolutely essential if you want genuine inner peace and sustained control.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? And it raises a question, maybe for you listening. How often do your thoughts automatically slip into those well-worn negative paths?
Yeah, it's a good point for reflection.
So, okay, why this specific book? Why is it so potent, especially maybe for you, the listener, if you're already kind of on this path of self-mastery but still struggling? Well, if your mind still wanders a lot, despite your best efforts, if worry is still a constant companion, maybe, if you're looking for a deeper but still practical understanding of inner peace and what meditation is really for, or even if you just want to refine your self-control, get a really profound grasp on your inner world, Swami Buddhananda's insights here are just incredibly relevant.
And beyond the depth of the content, a huge plus is just how accessible the book is. The language is quite simple, spiritual, yes, but easy to engage with. Though I'd say the deeper points often hit harder on a second read.
Happens with good books.
And it's short. It's only about 100, maybe 120 pages, so it's a very quick read, but it packs a punch.
Yeah, you could comfortably read it in, 3 or 4 days. And the wisdom in it really seems to go beyond specific backgrounds. It feels practical, whether you're a student, working full-time, someone really invested in spiritual growth, or even if you're just dealing with everyday stress or feeling mentally tired. It seems to speak to a pretty wide audience looking for, practical wisdom. So ultimately, The Mind in Its Control by Swami Buddhananda really feels like a testament to the power of transforming yourself from the inside out. It offers this direct, authentic path to understanding and mastering your mind. And not through, complicated theories or secret rituals, but just through straightforward, accessible wisdom.
Absolutely. And the book's final verdict, its closing statement, powerfully sums it all up. It echoes a truth you hear in many traditions, which basically translates for our listeners as, if you conquer the mind, you conquer everything.
Wow, that statement really does give you pause, doesn't it? What does that truly mean for you listening right now? To conquer your mind, especially thinking about Swami Buddhananda's ideas on managing its flow, channeling its energy. How might getting that kind of control over your thoughts, your emotions, your senses, how might that genuinely lead to a kind of mastery over everything else in your life? It's definitely something worth mulling over and maybe, just maybe, starting to practice.